Hello everybody and welcome back to OnPoint HQ and just another brief update into my ongoing and really rather enjoyable Bolt Action Stalingrad project. If you've seen any of the previous videos, you'll know that I'm currently working on a sort of Armies on Parade entry competition type thing. It's going on in my local Bolt Action group. And so I'm entering my Stalingrad Germans, and I'm currently making display bases for all the individual sections, teams and units. In the previous video I outlined the display base that I'd made for all my HQ units, but in that video I also showed you that I was working on, or I just literally started working on building a base for my mortar team, and it's finished. It took a couple of nights to get that fully completed, so we're going to be having a look at that in today's video, as well as what's up next on the display base building front. This was a little bit different. Last week I put a video out explaining exactly how I go about making these display bases. This one was slightly different in that I used as a base this. As you can see, it's a really thicker type of cork, and what it actually is, it's its true purpose is for putting hot pans on. So when your pans are too hot and you can't put them down on any work surfaces, you put them on a piece of cork, and it doesn't burn anything. I saw them as a base material. I got mine from IKEA a couple of years ago. I haven't really used them because they're a bit too thick to what I normally work with, but I thought for what I had in mind with this, they would be ideal. So what I'm going to do is just mess with the camera and show you exactly what has been done. So like I mentioned, this was different. So it's a thicker cork, and it was based on an old CD, and then I just built up the sort of, what I wanted was a mortar pit type thing, like they're really stuck in the ruins of Stalingrad. You know, there's buildings collapsing around them, there's bricks and masonry everywhere, there's timber, there's bits of old fence, there's a bit of snow in there as well, planks of wood, even an old tank wheel there. So lots of debris and lots of sort of clutter. So what I did was I built up the sides using old bits of cork cut off, and then I used the all-purpose filler that I always use just to build up that sort of pit looking theme that I was going for. As you can see now, I've removed the actual mortar team. It's quite deep, and that's exactly what I was aiming for. I wanted them to, like, they were either dug in, or it was the sort of a shell crater that they'd dug into to make this mortar pit. But I was really chuffed with how it turned out. I did want that depth around the actual mortar pit itself, and it was just achieved with the same technique that I used on the previous bases. So just all-purpose filler. Once that's dry, use PVA to add grit to the base. It's then dry brushed and then weathered with Vallejo weathering pigments. And what I really like about it is the real uneven texture around the outside. It really does give a good impression of like a mortar pit, like they've been sheltering in a shell crater. Again, just added bits and pieces. So there's bricks there made out of chopped up spruce, bits of balsa wood, bits of old tank kit, even here some sandbags there from the British Commonwealth infantry box, and even a piece of fence there. I was actually asked on the Bolt Action group what I used to make that. It's actually an aluminium mesh letter holder. I use it to it's a very cheap alternative to actually buying mesh. I just cut it into random or irregular shapes, and it's just added and pressed into shape along the side of the crater. But again, it was just one more thing that I could add to give it a bit of character, a bit of lived in character. But I think it's worked exactly how I wanted it to work. So I mean, the actual base it's on, it's the mortar itself, it's got a bit of depth to it as well, but I really want them to, like, they were hunkered down in the middle of ruined city essentially, and I'm very happy with how that's turned out. Again, a bit different from the normal process, because the walls are a little bit thicker than I normally use, but overall very happy with that. So what's up next? So I'm now the next ones I'm working on are the spotter for this mortar team. This is very much work in progress, and I don't know whether it's going to be the one that I actually go with. So what I'm building up again is just using really offcuts of cork. What I want is the spotter to look like he's in an elevated position, so he's sort of on top of a building looking down into the city and directing the mortar's fire. What I'll need to do with this, like I said, it's very work in progress at the moment. I need to add lots of filler. I need to weather it a bit by tearing chunks out of the cork. What as well, I want some beams or rafters, or a bit of a roof coming off there. So there is plans for it. Again, it's what I like working with cork, is you start off with this and you're going to end up with something completely different. But that's the plan for the mortar team spotter. And say he's going to sit on there like so. That's going to look really quite nifty once that's finished. Again, what I wanted is that sort of elevated theme that he's on top of a building looking down into the city. And the next one, a bit different with this one. I've actually used some commercially produced or commercially bought. It's really old. Some of you might recognise it. So this is going to be the base for my forward observations team. Now what you can see is, rather than use cork to make walls, I've used some old Games Workshop plastic scenery. Now I've had this for, it's clear it's got to be over 20 years. I've never actually used it. I painted it and weathered it, but I didn't actually use it for anything. I actually found it again the other day. I thought there's got to be a way I can use that, and yeah, I just thought it'd be a different type of basing, or a different type of building for my Stalingrad Germans. Not an awful lot had to do with it. I mean, there was clearly skulls on it, because there's skulls on everything. So I've cut away all the skulls, and that's just going to be painted and weathered in the same manner as the other ones. But it just gives a bit of a different building. So rather than there's the same old sort of building style throughout the bases, just something a bit different. As you can see, what I've done of these are on there. What that will help is when I add the filler, it will help build up a sort of layer. As with the mortar pit, I want a bit of depth. It's like there's rubble and debris and all kinds of in a collapsed building. But I think that will look quite nifty once it's done. And that is where I'm up to with the Stalingrad basing. So once these are all done, all that's left will be 3 infantry sections for the display bases, and then it's onto the overall big display base itself, which I'm really looking forward to building. Well, I hope you found that useful, entertaining, or enjoyable, or spark some of your own ideas, some creativity, making your own display bases. What I plan to do is use this technique to actually build myself an actual Stalingrad gaming board. I really like the way it's turned out, and it's really quite simple as well. It's not overly time consuming. The materials are dirt cheap. You can find them for a couple of pounds on Amazon or on the internet or anywhere, even knocking around your house. And for me, that's the essence of good scratch build and good kit bashing, is finding the bits and pieces where you least expect it. If you've got any comments or questions about this or bolt action or gaming in general, leave them down below, and I will certainly respond to all comments and questions. But as always, thanks for watching. Do take care. May your dice roll well, and I'll catch you all